And Dani is the founder of Happy Healthy Littles, and she's a nutrition consultant, and she does some amazing work with lots of kids, especially, to keep their nutrition on point and to keep their microbiome functioning at an optimal level. So I'm so happy to have her here with me today. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. So I wanted to start off just talking a little bit about the microbiome. Kind of what is that, and why is that so important for us all to keep an eye on?
Absolutely. I love it. I think some moms are like microbiome. I'm newly hearing this word and it's getting tossed around all the time. And then in conjunction, we have probiotics and all these other funky words, right?
Right.
So essentially the microbiome is all of the levels of bacteria that you have. I mean, we have bacteria everywhere, all over us. We're mostly made of bacteria more than we are anything else. And what we need is a healthy microbiome, which is made up of healthy, thriving levels of what we call the probiotics. Those are the good guys. And we need very low levels of bad guys. We don't eradicate all the bad guys. We need homeostasis. We need a balance. The
For
good
sure.
guys over here, all the good strains of probiotics that are thriving and we're feeding and we're maintaining, keep these other guys at bay, right? And
Absolutely.
so much of disease we're finding today is actually related to what's going on in our gut, which would then be related directly to our microbiome and whether it's healthy or whether it's unhealthy and imbalanced. So
Yeah, absolutely. And having a good microbiome also helps keep yeast at bay. I feel like yeast overgrowth in the gut can also be a big problem for a lot of people these days.
and especially then when mom delivers a baby who might have passed through the vaginal canal with a little bit of yeast, and then we've got thrush on the breast and the nipple, and that becomes a nightmare for a
Yes.
nursing mom.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. It's so important. And I mean, I've even read how the microbiome, in our stomach can influence the foods that we crave. Like we think it's us craving the sugars and the junk food, but it's not us. It's those gut bacteria that are craving those to
100%.
fuel themselves.
100%. And the yeast and the candida will make you crave white carbs and sugar and even salts, just more so than you need, just all the day long. It's a
That's
nightmare.
so interesting. I mean, there's so many nerves in the gut, and that's why we sometimes feel emotions in our gut. I mean, it's just your second
Yeah,
brain in there. So
100%.
yeah, so the thought that like these the microbiome we have in there is controlling a lot of what we do and how we feel, like there's links to depression and anxiety
100%.
tied to the microbiome also.
Yeah.
So that's so interesting.
And
Um,
then when we look at children and pregnancy and postpartum, we're dealing with growing brains. We're dealing
Absolutely.
with developing brains. So the gut is actually so directly related to how the brain is developing, how the brain is being nourished. And we're looking at critical times of speech development, sensory development, all of that that's going on. And the microbiome is actually more where we go in to support the brain
Right.
during this beautiful and unique window of, perinatal care, as we call it, the preconception and the pregnancy and the postpartum window.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the interesting thing is, I found that, or I've learned that the microbiome is very changeable in the first few years of life, but then after about 3, you get to a point and it's a lot harder to shift
Yes,
things. Like those
yes.
bacteria get kind of rooted in there, and it's
Oh
more
yeah,
challenging to change as an adult.
absolutely. Prevention is the easy type of medicine, and
Yes.
going back and intervening later. And I will tell you, because that was me. I got into nutrition after being so chronically ill and constipated in every GI issue end of high school and college. And I'm here today through nutrition and integrated medicine, naturopathic medicine, thriving. But it was hard and it took a long time. And I love working with infants from the very start because it's really easy and it's
Yeah.
really fun. You can catch colic the minute you start to notice it. You can catch that constipation right away, and hopefully it doesn't happen again,
Yep.
and you're really honing in again all on the microbiome and how we're feeding good bacteria and keeping those other guys way deep down later. I mean, yeast can be said later in life to develop its own biofilm. That means
Oh,
it's
wow. And then
built.
it's really hard to clear out once it's
Yeah,
built that protective biofilm around itself.
exactly. Yes. And
Wow.
this happens even in our kids today, once they hit that 5, 6, 7 older window. And so often, I mean, we see thrush, you see thrush
All
all
the
the
time.
time.
Yep.
And then little girls with yeasty issues, it carries on, and just that general candida, bloat, digestive issue thing that carries with these poor kids later in life.
Absolutely. And the diet of a lot of kids really affects that, because so much of our food now is like the processed carbohydrates and the white
Yeah.
flours and white
Yep.
bread, and that just feeds that yeast so easily.
Directly feeds yeast. Exactly. Yep. where we want to be consuming food that feeds good bacteria, and even consuming fermented foods on a regular basis and using them when we start solids on baby as well.
Yes, no, you're right. That's
Direct
so
opposite.
important. It's not always the first thing we think of, like, oh, I'm going to give my baby sauerkraut or kefir.
Yes.
But those are
Yeah.
so important.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, not only does having a healthy microbiome help keep you feeling good as an adult, but there can be some serious improvements in health in babies too. Like you were saying,
Absolutely.
eczema and colic. I think
Yeah.
it's tied to diaper rash too.
100%. 100%. Diaper rash is very common yeasty. Most doctors will treat it with an anti-yeast, an antifungal cream. And then I think even the stool gets really acidic so often. So it's
Yeah, and it's
burning
so
baby's bum.
irritating. Yeah.
So we have loose stool, diarrhea, blowouts, problematic.
Yep.
Babies should be having 1 to 2 comfortably loose bowel movements that do resemble that mustard color and sort of peanut butter texture. I know it sounds weird, but
Yep.
poop matters.
True. Very
They
true.
should not be skipping days, not skipping multiple days, not straining, not seem, uncomfortable. They shouldn't have distended tummies or bellies. I mean, some babies will push out their belly, very different in a way than adults. But can tell when it's bloated
Right.
versus just a belly that's out, right? We shouldn't have gas passing frequently, and especially not that smells very foul.
Mhm.
Babies can have airy gas here and there, and that's just funny and normal.
Yeah.
But these are all signs of maldigestion, which is coming from there's no good bugs to digest and break down the food well, and there's maybe bad bugs in there that are fermenting and causing all these GI issues that also we see reflect themselves in the skin. And
Yes.
I see eczema all the time. You probably see eczema all the time, even on
Every day.
infants who are just fed breast milk. I mean, it is a
People
very, very,
are-
very sad thing to have a baby itchy, scratchy, open eczema, oozing, and bleeding. And that skin is actually telling us something we can't see because I can't look inside your gut.
Right.
So it's actually the body's way of help.
Yeah.
Red alert 101.
Yeah.
My gut needs support.
Absolutely. And it's so important that we're talking about this because the traditional teaching that I got in medical school and that most doctors have the experience with is that, as long as the poop isn't bloody, it's okay. Like you can poop a million times a day or once a week and that's all fine. But it's really not. Like they might not be life-threatening, but these are not signs of a healthy gut.
Totally. Totally. And we're looking at optimal health in moms, postpartum, and babies. We want thriving. That's our goal, right?
Yes, for sure.
Postpartum moms should also be having a bowel movement every single day.
Yes, very important too. And yeah, especially like there's certain bacteria strains that, have even been found to target certain issues, like especially that Bifidobacterium infantis, is supposed to be in the gut of babies to help break down mom's milk. And in many babies today, most babies even, they don't have that. And that's why the poops are so frequent and so foul, because they just can't break it down. And so the food's going undigested. They're not getting the nutrients. They're not getting the calories out of it.
Totally. Reuteri is another one that they think is correlated with colic specifically, and also eczema. So I use that probiotic specifically too. The Saccharomyces boulardii is another, it's more of a yeast-like probiotic that works directly on yeast and can even slow the transit time very nicely, whether it's a chronic or an acute issue like a viral diarrhea. So probiotics are amazing. They're fascinating.
They're so amazing. And when I've used them in the babies in clinic, I mean, I see a rapid turnaround where if I'm not careful and, miss warning the parents are panicked, like he's not pooping so many times a day anymore. The following day they're seeing these amazing results.
Yeah.
And it's concerning if they're not prepared for that.
Right. Exactly. And babies are particularly vulnerable because essentially in the womb, they're not really exposed to much. Maybe there's a possibility of some crossover they're looking more into now. But I mean, even 5-10 years ago, the top GI integrative doctors were like, there's no exposure to bacteria in the womb.
Right.
And then hopefully they go through the vaginal canal and they're getting covered, smothered, and inoculated, we call it, hopefully in good bacteria. Because if mom's not going to look at good bacteria going on, then baby's not going to get it out of nowhere.
Right. Yeah. If mom's gut is off at the beginning, like that baby's not starting out on the right foot.
Yep. And I followed so many, working in the unique setting I was in where the pediatrics would also take care of some parents. We would look at stool studies of parents, moms mostly, and the babies, or even toddlers or 5, 6, 7-year-olds. And so often you're like, they're literally almost exactly the same.
Wow.
They're like the same strains
Mhm.
of bad bugs, a little high, and like same levels of the good bugs they have grow out in the culture. And you're just like, this thing is real. When you
Right.
go through your mom's vaginal canal, your initial inoculation is what she has to pass on. It's
Yeah.
fascinating.
Right. It absolutely is. Like that is so important. And, like you said, it's important to catch moms early so that
Yeah,
you can get that environment perfect so that when the baby's born, they're starting out with the right inoculation and that's
yeah,
the one that's going to persist and
yeah.
be maintained.
Absolutely.
So,
So,
yeah.
one of the most simplest things that moms can do when they're preconception and then pregnant, as well as nursing, obviously, but we're talking about passing through the vaginal canal first. So, you just take a therapeutic grade, a multi strain probiotic, probably upwards of 20 plus billion every single day. This is one capsule, ladies. That's
Yeah.
pretty easy to do, right?
Super easy.
And then honestly, that work can take a lot of time if there are bad bugs. So I've really even found, especially if mom has had a colicky baby in the
Mhm.
past and doesn't want that to happen again, because I think any mom would say it's pretty
Yeah. You want to prevent that if
devastating.
you can, for sure.
Yes. You can actually go in and do what we call a vaginal inoculation, prepping the area itself, your vaginal, your
Mhm.
birthing canal, for baby to pass through. We recommend starting this about 6 weeks before your due date, where you actually just take a little coconut oil and you open that probiotic and you mix them together and you smother it down there all
Mhm.
over everywhere. And
Yeah.
that puts those good bugs there, right? Instead of they got to work through the gut has to start to inoculate down in the vaginal area. That's not going to happen overnight.
Right. Yeah. That can take months, right?
So,
For it to like work its way through.
oh, yeah, I mean, that could take a year. Yeah. Depending on the level of dysbiosis mom's been dealing with, and of course, for how long, right?
Right.
Um, but that practice specifically that I have used with hundreds of moms at this point, anyone who's willing, some
Mhm.
women are like, what? I'm not going down there. Sorry. But it works. These women are like, whoa, I had the colicky is screaming 24/7 all night long, never pooped well baby, to like just this happy, healthy baby.
Right.
Chunky, gaining weight, sleeping, napping, comfortable when mom lays down. I mean, and that is, I mean, I think personally, really, of all the things you might have to do in life, just put a little probiotic in your vaginal area at night before bed, before your birthday.
I mean, yeah, to save yourself from months of sleepless nights and stress and crying. I mean, colic is the worst. So if
Yeah,
you can, take the edge off or eliminate it completely, that's
yeah.
well worth it.
Yeah. And we've outlined that entire protocol because it is a little strange
Mhm.
in our prenatal package. And I even have another video in there where I go over all of it to a T. So moms can find that and utilize that there. Cause I mean, it is kind of like, wait, what? And it's not like your OB is going to tell you to go down there and get the area ready.
Right, right.
Now, babies also who are delivered via C-section, thank God they're here, healthy and alive. We love medical ventions when they're needed.
Yes.
And those babies should, without question, have a probiotic directly in their mouth, an infant probiotic from the
Mhm.
very beginning.
Yeah.
Just start flooding that baby with the good strains, multi-strain again. So often at a health food store, you're going to find 3 or 4 different strains in a probiotic. You're going to find a baby one might have 2 billion, even an adult one might have 10 as a max. So we really need to move to practitioner grade, therapeutic level, we call them. So you're getting multi-strain,
Right.
at least 10 plus different strains, and at least 20 plus billion
Yeah. You
on
need
a
that whole
good year.
ecosystem to be functioning properly.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so important. Do you recommend like babies that are born by C-section to kind of try to inoculate some of that vaginal bacteria, kind of Q-tip swab and put it on the baby's face?
Yes.
'Cause
Now, obviously, that depends on where you're delivering and if the hospital will you allow you to do it. But if they will do a vaginal swab and do the ears and the eyes and the nose and the whole mouth,
Mhm.
well, I mean, ear infections, eye infections, sinus infections, and recurrent strep are all related to we didn't have thriving good bacteria in those areas.
Right.
So yeah, if moms are able, if the hospital will allow, without question, do a vaginal swab if you've had a C-section.
Yeah, that's so and a lot of our families do home births or they're born at a birth center, and so I'm sure those are gonna be options for them too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I guess they're not having
They're
C-section
delivering
at
via
home.
vaginal. Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, like having those extra precautions and kind of making sure that
Yeah.
especially if the vaginal canal's been prepped and the bacteria there is good to really try
Yeah.
to get it on the baby.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, mom has the other opportunity of passing on and establishing good bacteria through nursing.
Mhm.
So, really trying to nurse for a year is always my goal with moms, because it does seem to be harder on everyone than they think.
Yeah.
And then taking, again, a therapeutic probiotic that you're going to pass on
Mhm.
as you continue to nurse directly into baby's mouth. Totally original design on how babies keep inoculating that good bacteria. And then, also, I do believe, because of the malleability of the gut in infancy, that all babies, vaginal, even if you prepped it, just give your baby a
Mhm.
teeny tiny little pinch of a probiotic powder daily, just to offer them the gift of having a strong, healthy microbiome, which really equals optimal life later.
Right, especially because there's such a narrow window where it's not like something you can just do when they're older. It's not gonna be the
Yeah.
same effect. It's not gonna be as
Yep.
effective.
Yes.
Do
Yeah.
you recommend getting a specific baby probiotic or just
Yes.
using the therapeutic one mom takes and breaking it and giving the baby some of that?
Yeah. So I recommend Claire across the board, and they make they make one for adults, and then they make one specifically for infants. And I actually was going to give you some links. Very easy access for mom to get the prenatal and postpartum recommendations, and then the baby needs recommendations.
Mhm.
So I do recommend an infant specific, unless I'm working with a mom one-on-one and I want to use like a very, maybe like a one for Crohn's or colitis, a different probiotic, then I would use that. But other than that, generally speaking, an infant probiotic for the first year of life.
Perfect, perfect. No, that's so important. And what else? So we talked about the vaginal birth. We talked a little bit about breastfeeding. I'm sure breastfeeding is easier if the
Yeah.
baby's on a good probiotic and we're not dealing as much with the yeast issues that can make it more uncomfortable.
Yep.
What else?
Yep.
Are there any other steps? I guess we can
Um,
talk next about food, like starting solids
yeah.
when
Yes.
children are a little older.
Because babies' guts are not only malleable, they're also vulnerable. So
Very
putting in the wrong solids can actually, even you've had a healthy baby for 6 months, and all of a sudden you put in solids and they're constipated out of nowhere, right? And
right.
sometimes
They
this can
give
be a
up.
little bit hard to go back. And so I am all about respect for the gut when we put in solids. It really needs to be done with the most easily digestible foods, without question, across the board. And unfortunately, moms so often think the first food should be a rice cereal or an oat cereal, which
Mhm.
is a grain.
Yeah.
Even whole grains feed bad bugs in the gut.
And
And
rice
I actually take the stance of waiting a year to
to do.
introduce any grains for
Yeah, and
any.
rice has the added, risks of the arsenic component. It's so unfortunate that that was been the standard of starting foods,
Oh,
like, it
I
tastes
know.
bad, it constipates, it's bad for the gut, and it's got arsenic, like,
Very constipating.
we should
Yeah.
really be holding off on that one, I agree.
Yes. Yes.
So what first of all, what's the best time? Do you say I know there's a
Yeah.
window usually between 4 to 6, and some people
You
wanna
know,
start earlier and some people wanna start.
mostly 5.5, 6.
Mhm.
If mom's exclusively breastfeeding and baby is just thriving, following that same healthy growth chart, no dips at all, then wait till 6. That's fine.
Perfect.
Um, Honestly, sometimes food can help the gut. It actually broadens our toolbox versus we've just got breast milk. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Maybe a little enzymes, maybe a little probiotic. We don't have a lot of stuff we can necessarily give babies directly at really young ages. So I will start even with bone broth at like 4.5 months, and like bone broth with squash at 5 if we need more soothing
Mhm.
into the gut, kind of a thing.
Right.
Um, I will say too, often we haven't touched too much on enzymes. Enzymes are more stomach and small intestine, whereas so much of probiotics is the colon. But enzymes can be a huge missing component to helping babies, even who have thriving good bugs, because the stomach and the small intestine really need to keep that food moving through and getting into that colon. That's why we have so much reflux and actual vomiting with babies, bloated tummies, and moms, because sometimes women are like, but I'm just breastfeeding. How are they constipated? Well, sometimes there can be some undigested food particles present in breast milk.
Yeah.
Moms can take enzymes with their meals and work on easily digestible foods in their meals so we can come out with this really easily digestible breast milk. I mean, what mom eats is going to affect her breast milk, and that's going to affect baby.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's so interesting, like how much you can do to help mom,
So much,
to
so much,
get the breast milk to be optimal.
so much. And honestly, my first favorite food is bone broth.
Mhm.
Just
And
an
like
ooey
with a
gooey.
spoon, you just kind of feed it with a spoon.
Yeah, you can even put it into a bottle. Just give them an ounce in a bottle.
Yeah.
And if mom is doing a bottle of her breast milk, she can mix the two. And moms who are doing formula can mix the two.
Oh,
Babies tend to love bone broth. They don't know to drink bone broth is kind of odd. They're like, wow, what is this? And
yeah.
it's the ooey gooey gelatinous that literally coats the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, and the colon. It's just the best food for gut health across the board.
Oh, that is great. That sounds so good.
And
Um,
then I use that as the base for all purees.
oh, okay. So
Launch
you
the,
puree and mix it in with the bone broth.
yep,
Nice. That's
yep,
probably good too, flavor wise, because once the baby's used to the bone broth flavor, the other new flavors are a little easier to introduce when it's got
yep,
that underlying taste.
yep. And we're leaving a digestible base
Hmm.
in the food, right? In all the purees. And purees are great. I know that baby led weaning is very trendy.
Yes, that is the thing these days.
Yeah, but babies don't have teeth, generally speaking, early on. It can be said that chewing your food and eating slowly can be even more effective, actually, than enzymes and probiotics. So when babies can't chew,
Hmm.
we have so much maldigestion going on.
Yeah, that's true.
And moms will often see whole food particles in the stool, and often baby led weaning people will say that's acceptable, but there shouldn't be whole food in the colon. The food could be whole in the small intestine in the beginning, but by the colon, the large intestine, it should be well digested.
Hmm.
Because the immune system's job, which we've been talking about as being related to the gut, and this is how the immune system's job is to identify anything in your body that's foreign. It could be a bacteria, a virus, right? To get it out by way of what? Inflammation. And when there's undigested food particles in the colon, that's considered foreign. Your immune system identifies that as foreign, like that whole carrot, or even worse is grains, because there's without chewing, you're going to have whole rice, whole
Yeah.
quinoa. And the immune system is literally going to the gut lining. That does not belong there. That quinoa should not look like that. It's foreign. It's my job to get it out. Well, the gut in babies is somewhat unsealed all the way anyways, and then the immune system's attacking it, and we get the common leaky gut syndrome very easily in little babies with undigested food particles present in the colon.
Yeah.
So
And
I
that
am
can
a
probably
huge
persist for a long time, even if you identify it and figure out what's going on.
yeah, yeah. And then you have a weak, tired, sluggish immune system because it's been dealing with undigested food particles when it needs to deal with not maldigestion, but all the other issues in
Right.
life.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. Just like
So
your gut bacteria, you need your immune system to develop properly in the right environment. And you don't want to give it these extra hiccups to stress about.
exactly, exactly. And honestly, hundreds of years ago, kids didn't have sensory issues like they do now. Because this is another thing I find women are like, oh, Dani, but I'm only giving purees and I'm so worried about sensory issues. For all of time, women have been, whether they've been bird feeding all of their own food
Yep.
and giving it to baby entirely mashed up, masticating already. Women have enzymes even in their mouth. So I'm not going to make you bird feed your kids, but the food should be mashed.
Mhm.
So, and that babies didn't have sensory issues because the sensory issue is even so much more actually related to a gut issue, gut brain connection.
Yep. You bet.
So it's really ironic that baby led weaning thinks that one of the best parts about whole food particles is developing sensory issues. It's so ironic because
Right.
you're actually damaging the gut and probably going to cause sensory issues later.
Cause more issues. Yeah. There's other
And
ways
babies
you
can play
can.
with toys and all kinds of other things.
Exactly. Exactly. And they'll get to a point, like at what point do you recommend starting?
Absolutely. I love the 9-10 month window.
Mhm.
We're still under a year.
Right.
Developmental and sensory issues are building, right? We probably have a few teeth. I hope we have a few teeth.
Yep.
We have a stronger gut just by nature. Now we have a gut that's been alive 9 months, not
Mhm.
just 6 months, right? We have
Right.
a baby that's much stronger, holding up its neck so much better. It can gum way better than it even does at six
Absolutely.
months. That is traditionally about when moms would let food get chunkier and let there be pieces and not fully mashed food, right?
Right.
And you need to watch if you start at 9 months with, and I like zucchini and like butternut squash, really well cooked in broth, smothered in ghee, right?
Yeah.
That's easily digestible. But you're still like, whoa, that's all whole zucchini in the poop. Your baby's gut is telling you, I can't digest that yet. I'm not quite ready.
Yeah. So you would
So
then step it back a little bit,
yes.
give
And
her.
I would increase GI support. I would increase enzymes. Food particles mean the body needs enzymes. It's not digested, right?
Right.
And then you keep your increase and keep probiotics and just, yeah, wait another month. Let baby's gut get strong enough. I mean, even as adults, we should not have tons of food present in the stool.
For sure.
Bad sign.
Not a good sign for anyone.
Yeah. It's a
And what
leaky
do you
gut
recommend?
sign for sure.
What are your favorite foods? I mean, I think it's so important to introduce a variety of flavors
Yes.
in the first year to
Yes.
really, not only reduce the chance of allergies to things,
Mm-hmm.
like peanuts and eggs and whatnot,
Yeah.
but also just to build a palate. Like I found, like with my kids, I tried to give them a whole range, and now, they're toddlers and they're able to eat mushrooms and
Yeah.
sushi and, a whole
Yeah.
variety of tastes. Whereas, some kids are just so picky and become,
Yeah.
especially like more picky than they need to be during those
Yes.
toddler years.
Totally agreed. I mean, I like to kind of hit all the tastes. I do think that a mineral rich salt is actually important for babies. So food should have slight little bits of salt and not taste utterly flat to mom if she wants to try the butternut squash soup, right?
Mhm.
Even some sweet. Let's do some berries. Let's do some mango. Let's do some melon. Sour. Let's get some sauerkraut juice in
Mhm.
their purees or on their vegetables. Let's do some goat yogurt or some sheep yogurt, even chèvre. Very easy for babies to eat chèvre, just a super soft. And goat and sheep's cheese are way easier to digest than cow's milk cheese, which some babies do fine with, but sensitive tummy babies will need goat and sheep first. And
Right.
then savory, because I love meat. We should totally be putting grass-fed ground meat in the butternut and the
Yes.
bone broth and pureeing it. Ground turkey, even liver if you would do it, even fish. We should
Right.
be giving babies a full spectrum of the proteins for sure.
For sure. And especially because iron levels in especially breastfed babies start to drop after about 6 months. And so you
Yes.
really need to give them that iron rich food to
Yes.
keep that up high.
Yes. And they need to be able to digest it and break it down, or that iron's never going to make it into their
Never gonna make
bloodstream.
it.
So even egg yolk that's, been well heated, but is still mushy somewhat, is another great first food for babies. And mom can finish the white. Babies should never have egg whites, ever, 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 ever. Egg whites have a protein that is too difficult to digest by age 1. So that's another of my big no's for sure.
Oh, interesting. But so you wait till after 1 for the egg
Wait
white.
till after 1. You wait till after 1. But the yolk, because again, it's more fat, and fats are super hypoallergenic and very easy to digest.
Yeah.
And the yolk just mashes super easy. Mom can drizzle runny yolk on top of a puree, or even like over the zucchini little baby bits.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, we have our postpartum online package also, which outlines through all the 5 to 6 month window, 7 to 8 month, 9 to 10. What are you doing? How are you changing things? What are you feeding? All kinds of recipes, because this is a very, very, I would say, worrisome issue for new
For
moms.
sure. Yep.
It's like, what do I do? What is actually best? There's a lot of noise,
Yes.
which is amazing. As a pediatrician, you can be offering such sound information, because I mean, that is such a gift, ladies who see Dr. Tip. It's not common, and it is just, I mean, really, it's a tremendous gift to you and your baby, because solids can hinder or solids can cause you to thrive.
Yes. Yeah, there's a huge and it's a big opportunity to really help kids thrive by introducing things the right way. You only get one chance to introduce
Yes,
foods for the first time.
yes,
You want to make sure you're doing
yes,
it properly. And
yes,
obviously, as you're introducing, the milk is still the primary source
yeah,
of nutrition.
yep,
It's more
yep,
for adding a little extra support, a little
yep,
gut health, and building that strong digesting gut at the beginning before the milk kind of starts to fade out.
absolutely. Yep,
What about supplements? Like, do you recommend
yeah,
babies start doing, we talked about probiotics, but,
yep,
I mean, fish oil can be really
yes.
helpful, or I hear you're a fan of cod liver oil. How's
Huge,
that working? Yeah.
huge fan.
Mhm.
Cod liver oil is the traditional way of getting omega 3s, which are brain fats, DHA and EPA. DHA has been more studied in correlation with its effect on babies' brain development. And actually, a lot of these studies have been done on the last 3 months in utero
Mhm.
and the first 3 months of baby's life. And the uptake of DHA to the baby's brain is remarkable. The unique thing about these fats is we don't make them. The body does not make these EFAs, DHA, and EPA on their own, meaning you need to be getting them in your diet. And even if you ate wild salmon every single day, you would not get sufficient amounts to have high enough levels in your blood.
Mhm.
So that is one of the strongest reasons that we recommend you take an incoming source of omega-3s every single day, especially fertility, preconception, same thing, prenatal and postpartum, because of the brain development going on. Not to mention, mom, this is also your hormones and your neurotransmitters, and you don't want to tank by any means postpartum. Even pregnancy women experience all kinds of hormone fluctuations.
Absolutely.
You can take a capsule, but the brain is also highly saturated in cholesterol, and good cholesterol keeps your brain really strong and really healthy. Cod liver oil naturally supplies a little cholesterol. Modern fish oil capsules are just EPA and DHA. I always recommend just try cod liver oil first.
Mhm.
Nordic. You can get that on our full script. It's in the bundles I'm going to make sure that Dr. Tiff has for you guys. They make strawberry, and it is very strawberry. I mean, there has to be thousands of children that take this from our recommendation daily, and it's very fruity. I prefer the lemon and the orange. I just really don't. It's just a normal part of my day now to take it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of nice too. The whole family can take one bottle, one supplement together.
Oh, that's so easy. I started after, talking to you before, I started my kids on daily fish oil. And so, I went to Whole Foods and I was like, oh, they're not going to take it. So I got them one that was kind of like a creamy smoothie. And it was fine for a little bit. And then they kind of started saying it's too sticky, it's too sweet.
Oh,
So I, on a whim, tried just like regular fish oil that's,
yeah,
lemon flavor, just like the
yeah,
oily stuff. And they love it. They look forward to it in the morning. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be a very easy switch when I try cod
yeah,
liver oil next.
yes. Oh,
Because
yeah, totally.
they don't mind it at all. And they're, they can be picky with flavors.
Yeah, yeah. No, they Nordic Naturals does it well. It's very purified. The source is entirely clean. I know women can get like, but the fish are dirty, but the need and the benefit of having omegas far outweighs the possibility even of some toxins. I mean,
Yes.
if you don't have your body's omegas, which are also your anti-inflammatories, I mean, you just can't fight off anything going on in your system. I mean, they think most diseases are caused from the start of inflammation.
Yes. I
So
mean,
your immune system is starving for omegas.
absolutely. It's one of my favorite supplements because, even like in older kids, when they look at kids that suffer from ADHD or from autism,
Totally.
they have less omega-3s,
Totally.
like they don't absorb it as well. And their levels are
Absolutely.
so much lower. And supplementing it can really help and make a difference. So to
Absolutely.
think that you might have the opportunity to prevent these kinds of challenges
Mhm.
later on, is
Mhm.
huge.
Yeah. And honestly, too, I found so much in working with these kids with ADD, ADHD, and even on the autism spectrum. I'm like, I can't give you a high enough dose of omegas right now, but I can't go back either to when you should have
Right.
been getting them as a nursing baby or in utero.
Mhm.
So, I mean, moms, if you like have a 2-year-old as you're listening to this and you're like, I haven't done omegas, your baby's still 2.
Yeah,
Just
it's
start
not.
now. Don't feel guilty. Don't think twice about it. Just move forward. Because like we're saying, the prevention is generally very easy and it works. And on labs, looking at deficiencies in the EPA and the DHA, I saw the same thing. And I also saw the super low cholesterol in all the kids with the learning issues, the ADD, the ADHD, and this kind of parallels depressed kids and anxious kids also.
Right.
So having cholesterol in the cod liver oil helps, and then also making sure you're feeding cholesterol-rich foods,
Mhm.
which all fats, cholesterol's a fat, help line and keep the gut really sealed.
Right, they
And
line the gut, they line the neurons, you
yeah,
need that myelin, which is made out of cholesterol to keep the
yeah,
neurons, working fast and working
yeah,
properly.
yeah.
So how old can you give, like, at what age can you start giving fish oil to kids?
Right when you start solids.
Sorry, when?
Right when you start solids.
Right when you start solids.
So you can mix that right in with the puree. You can give it directly. The baby DHA from Nordic has a nice little dropper that's very easy just to drop that right in baby's mouth. And you start very slow, just little drops, get them used to it. Work that to 1 milliliter, 1 ml daily. And then that's about the 5 to 6 month window for most moms. And then by a year, you've worked them to the 1 teaspoon.
Okay.
And then after that, we're all the same, believe it or not.
Yeah.
All after one, we're all 1 teaspoon daily. This is traditional. People were doing it for all of time. And when there was a shortage, they gave it to pregnant women and little small infants. They just knew it was like a saturated superfood.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like it's so helpful. And as something you can kind of introduce early, especially with the cod liver oil, you give it to your baby,
Yeah.
like they're gonna be used to that flavor. It's not gonna
Yeah.
be an issue at all
Yep.
later on and give them.
And then vitamin D is the only other supplement I'd make sure your infant gets.
Yes.
Because
Yeah, for sure.
they're
It
all
doesn't go through
dependent.
the breast milk well. Like you kind of have to
Yeah.
give it directly.
Yeah.
Like you said,
Yeah.
that helps so much with immune support, and it helps
Yes.
with mood, and it helps with, people are even saying it's
Huge.
cancer prevention if your vitamin D
Huge.
levels are optimal.
Yeah.
It's big for everything.
Yeah. And Nordic also makes a baby DHA. It's in the link. It's all there. Super easy for you guys to get the best quality.
Great. No, that's good. It's important because if you're giving your baby supplements, you want to make sure that what you're giving
Oh
them
yeah.
is clean and mercury free, and
Yeah.
that
Yes.
it's doing what you want it to do.
Yes. And the superior form, because so often you're like, that's not the best form of that or that or that. You're really not absorbing it.
Right, right. It's not helping.
That's what the health food industry has done. The supplement industry at the health food stores have gone nuts.
Yes, it's really challenging to find something good that is going to work.
Yeah. So
Great.
if your patients have questions, I mean, please reach out to us about anything. We're totally available.
Yes, where can they find you?
Obviously our Instagram at Happy Healthy Littles. You can also use our email, us at Happy Healthy Littles. And then our packages very easily linked from our bio and Instagram, or if you just go to happyhealthylittles.com, that's where we've compiled all of our online content into packages. So you have it for a lifetime, and they're broken down into whatever season that you're in. Preconception window, which is the 1 to 2 year window, long window, not when you're trying, way before that, before you conceive. Prenatal package, obviously the 9 months of your pregnancy, and then our postpartum is a 2-year package. So again, it's not like just when you're newly home and dealing with that first month postpartum. This is a 2-year postpartum package. That's where our solids is, our colic info, all the gut stuff for mom who's nursing, and for infant baby, and then even taking care of mom the year after she's done weaning, and you go back to recovering the postpartum mama. So
wow, that's so helpful. And the packages, it's so nicely organized. I find myself like going back and being like, oh wait, what was that recommendation for getting frequent colds or for constipation or for diarrhea? All these common issues that come up all the time. Everything's all so nicely laid out and, for quick reference.
Yeah. Thank you. We
Really?
did take time because I knew these moms need to know exactly where it is and need to go back to it.
Yes. Like, oh, I know I read it somewhere. Like, where was it? You don't want to
Yeah.
be like rifling through.
We
So
made
that's
it very easy for you, mamas.
super helpful. I think this has been great. I think that we've hit some really important points and talked about not only how important the microbiome is, but how to get that healthy microbiome, into ourselves and into our kids to really support them through a lifetime of good health.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It's been
Thanks
really
for having me.
perfect. So thank you again. I will put the information to your links and your contact info all,
Cool.
down below in the YouTube information so people can reach out. Again, I am Tiffany Jumeli. I'm a pediatrician at Integrative Pediatrics in Studio City. And we're here with Dani from Happy Healthy Littles, and she has given us so many good tools. So thank you so much for being here today.
Bye, ladies.
Thank you. Bye-bye.